What would you do if the person you trusted most in the world betrayed you in the most unimaginable way? Imagine you're a parole officer responsible for guiding those who've committed crimes back into society. But one parolee, a man with a dark past, isn't just looking for redemption. He's looking for something more dangerous. When a forbidden affair began, it quickly led to a deadly confrontation that would change everything, not just for the people involved, but for everyone who thought they knew the truth. What began as a seemingly harmless secret would soon reveal something no one could have predicted, a shocking act of violence that no one saw coming. How far does trust go when it's betrayed in the most deadly way possible? Stay with me as we uncover a story of deceit, betrayal, and a crime that no one could have imagined. In 2014, Jennifer Hayes, a parole officer, was assigned to oversee Marcus Turner, a man with a violent history. On the surface, Jennifer was a professional, focused on her duties, and driven by the belief that everyone deserved a second chance. But what she didn't know was that her path with Marcus would soon take an unexpected turn, one that would lead them into dangerous territory neither could have imagined. Their professional relationship, already strained by Marcus's criminal past, would blur into something far more personal, and as their secret affair began, the lines between right and wrong faded. But this wasn't just about a forbidden romance. This was about a betrayal, a trust broken, and a crime that no one could have seen coming. What started as a personal connection would ignite a chain of events that would eventually leave one life destroyed and another left in tatters. How did this affair, hidden from the world, lead to something so horrific that it would change everything in their lives? The truth may be more twisted than anyone could have predicted. Before we continue, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a gripping true crime story. If you're enjoying the suspense so far, give this video a like and share your thoughts or theories in the comments below. Your engagement helps us keep bringing you the most chilling cases from the world of crime. Now let's get back to the story. Jennifer Hayes was a seasoned parole officer known for her dedication to her work. To her, every parolee was more than just a case file. They were someone in need of guidance, a second chance. She had built her career on one simple principle. Justice didn't just mean punishment, it meant rehabilitation. She held a deep belief that people could change if given the right support. It was this belief that led her to take on some of the most challenging cases, including one involving Marcus Turner. Marcus Turner's criminal past was far from clean. In his early 20s, he had committed a series of violent crimes, including armed robbery and assault, all of which resulted in lengthy prison sentences. By the time he was released, Marcus was a man shaped by years behind bars. His time in the system hadn't just hardened him, it had left him bitter, distrustful of the world, and without much hope for a better future. After serving his time, Marcus was put on parole, a second chance to prove he could live outside the confines of a prison cell. But his history was always lurking in the background, a reminder that some people's pasts never really let them go. Despite his troubled history, Marcus was granted a parole officer in Jennifer, someone who prided herself on giving others the benefit of the doubt. But Marcus was different. He wasn't a model parolee. He had a chip on his shoulder, a disdain for authority, and a lack of interest in conforming to the rules. Jennifer's job was to keep him on track, to ensure he didn't return to his old ways. But over time, something changed. What began as simple professional encounters, meeting regularly, discussing his progress, offering advice, slowly turned into something more personal. At first, it was small things. Words of encouragement, subtle glances, shared moments of understanding. But as weeks went by, these interactions grew deeper and more intense. Their professional relationship became a web of secrecy. It wasn't long before they crossed a line that no one could ever have imagined. It started innocently enough. A casual conversation after their meetings, a shared drink, and before either of them could really comprehend what was happening, the boundary between parole officer and parolee had blurred. Jennifer, who had always prided herself on keeping things professional, found herself drawn to Marcus in a way she had never anticipated. His charm was disarming, his pain palpable, and she saw something in him, a vulnerability that pulled at her heart. Marcus, for his part, seemed to thrive in the secrecy of their connection. The more Jennifer tried to help him, the more it seemed to strengthen their bond. Yet, underneath the layers of attraction, there was something darker at play. Both knew the risks. Jennifer was aware that her job, her reputation, even her freedom could be at stake if anyone ever found out about their relationship. Marcus, though, had his own motives. He wasn't in this for redemption, not really. For him, the affair was something to hold over Jennifer, something that gave him control, something to use when the time was right. As the relationship grew more intense, Jennifer's judgment began to blur. She knew better than anyone how dangerous it could be to get too close to a parolee, but the lines were no longer clear. And Marcus, ever the manipulator, knew exactly how to play his cards. What started as a forbidden affair was becoming something more dangerous, something neither of them could fully understand or control. And then, one fateful day, the consequences of their choices would come crashing down, and neither would be prepared for the nightmare that would follow. What happens when trust is shattered in the most intimate way possible? Jennifer Hayes was about to learn the answer in a way that would forever change her life. As the weeks went by, the affair between her and Marcus Turner continued in secret. At first, it seemed like a forbidden romance, an escape from the monotony of their daily lives. But as the relationship deepened, Jennifer began to ignore the warning signs and the growing unease in the back of her mind. Then, one day, Jennifer felt an unfamiliar sense of unease. Something was wrong with her health. She began to feel unwell, weaker than usual. After a few tests, the diagnosis was clear, but the truth was devastating. She had contracted HIV. The virus that had been the shadow lurking in their affair was now a painful reality. The weight of it hit her all at once, but as she grappled with her own fear and shock, the question burned at her. How did this happen? It didn't take long for the truth to surface. Marcus Turner had known. He had known all along and kept this secret from her. She had trusted him, let him into her life in ways that no parole officer should ever allow. But Marcus had taken advantage of her trust, using their affair as a means to control her, to manipulate her, and to hide the darkest secret of all. The affair wasn't just about power. It was about something far more dangerous. The revelation of her diagnosis shattered Jennifer, but it was only the beginning. There was no apology, no remorse from Marcus. Instead, he seemed almost indifferent, as if the affair was just another game, another conquest. But now things were far more complicated. Jennifer was trapped. Her career was at stake, her personal life was in ruins, and the man she had trusted had betrayed her in the worst possible way. As Jennifer struggled with her diagnosis, the walls began to close in. What started as a secret affair was now a full-blown catastrophe, and Marcus, as always, seemed to be 2 steps ahead. It was no longer just about an affair. This was about survival. Jennifer knew she couldn't let Marcus get away with what he had done. She couldn't keep this secret, not just for her own sake, but for the sake of others who might one day find themselves in his path. But the more she tried to untangle herself from him, the more dangerous the situation became. The night everything changed came like a sudden storm. Jennifer had made up her mind. She had to confront Marcus, to demand answers, and perhaps to expose him for the manipulative, dangerous man he had shown himself to be. She arranged to meet him in what seemed like a final attempt to end the affair for good. But when Jennifer arrived at their meeting spot, Marcus wasn't alone. A sense of dread washed over her, and she could feel that something was terribly wrong. She had no idea what would unfold that night. What happened next would forever change the course of this tragic story. The confrontation that had started as a conversation spiraled out of control. What was meant to be a final reckoning became something much darker. The truth came to light in ways Jennifer could never have imagined, and the tension between them exploded in an act of violence that no one saw coming. In that moment, Jennifer's world collapsed. The affair, the betrayal, the manipulation, it all culminated in an unthinkable crime. But it wasn't just the crime itself that would haunt those who knew about it. It was the chilling revelation that sometimes, when you think you've reached the end, you only uncover the beginning of something far more terrifying. As Jennifer fought for her life, Marcus's actions would leave a trail of destruction that would haunt everyone involved. But who was truly responsible for what happened that night? The answers would take months, years even, to uncover, and for some the truth would remain buried forever. When Jennifer Hayes was found dead, the investigation into her death became an intense race against time. At first, all signs pointed directly to Marcus Turner. After all, the affair was no secret, and the confrontation between them, the night of her death, seemed to provide all the evidence investigators needed. But as detectives began to dig deeper into the case, they quickly realized that nothing was as straightforward as it seemed. The initial evidence was damning. Jennifer's body was discovered in a secluded area, her injuries consistent with a violent altercation. The scene suggested a struggle, and the fact that she had been involved with Marcus made him the obvious suspect. He was immediately brought in for questioning, and his behavior during the investigation only raised more suspicions. He was cold, detached, and offered few details, but what stood out most was his refusal to acknowledge the gravity of the situation. As investigators combed through Jennifer's personal effects, they discovered that she had been in the process of gathering evidence against Marcus. There were documents, notes, and even recorded conversations that suggested she had been planning to report him, not just for his manipulation of her, but for his possible involvement in other criminal activities. Yet, despite the compelling evidence, something didn't sit right. The crime felt off, too calculated, too planned, and there were strange inconsistencies that made the detectives question if Marcus was really the mastermind behind the murder. As the investigation expanded, a series of shocking revelations began to emerge. Surveillance footage from nearby areas showed Marcus leaving the scene, but it also showed something else. An unexpected person was seen with him. A woman, whom no one had yet identified, appeared to be following him at a distance. This discovery threw a wrench in the investigation, leading detectives to wonder whether Marcus had been manipulated by someone else, a possible accomplice or even a hidden figure pulling the strings behind the scenes. Who was this mysterious woman? Was she an accomplice or perhaps someone who had a personal vendetta against Jennifer? The theory that Marcus was merely a pawn in a larger game began to take shape. Police began to dig deeper into his past relationships, uncovering several other potential suspects who may have had motives to harm Jennifer or to manipulate Marcus into doing their bidding. Was there a third party involved, someone who had orchestrated the entire affair from the shadows, using Jennifer and Marcus as mere pieces in a much larger scheme? As detectives continued their search for answers, new evidence began to emerge. A forensic analysis of Jennifer's phone revealed a series of cryptic text messages exchanged between her and an unknown number in the days leading up to her death. These messages were alarming, threatening even, and suggested that Jennifer may have known more about the people involved in Marcus's life than anyone could have imagined. But the identity of the sender remained a mystery. Could this person have been involved in the murder, or was Marcus truly acting on his own? Detectives also uncovered a crucial piece of evidence hidden in Marcus's apartment, a blood-stained shirt that he had tried to dispose of. Though Marcus initially denied any involvement in Jennifer's death, this evidence strongly suggested that he had been the one to kill her. However, the motives behind the crime remained unclear. Was it a crime of passion fueled by the betrayal of their affair? Or was it something more, a calculated move by someone with far more to lose than just an illicit relationship? Theories began to surface about Marcus's true motives. Some believed that Marcus had killed Jennifer to silence her, to stop her from exposing him and his manipulation. Others theorized that Jennifer's attempt to end their affair and take legal action against him had pushed Marcus over the edge. But then, another theory emerged, that Marcus may have been the victim of a larger conspiracy, with the murder being the result of someone pulling the strings from behind the scenes. Was there someone else involved in orchestrating Jennifer's death, using Marcus as the perfect scapegoat? As the investigation continued, the police faced more questions than answers. With new theories popping up and new suspects emerging, the case began to take on more layers than anyone had anticipated. Was Marcus the killer, or was he a pawn in a much bigger game? The investigation was far from over, and the truth seemed to slip further and further out of reach, leaving everyone involved wondering, would they ever uncover the full story behind Jennifer Hayes' tragic death? The investigation seemed to be moving toward a conclusion, but just as the police were preparing to close in on Marcus Turner, the case took an unexpected turn. What seemed like a straightforward murder investigation became anything but. A crucial piece of evidence surfaced that would change everything. It was a hidden diary, a seemingly insignificant item at first glance, but one that would unravel the web of secrets that had been carefully constructed around Marcus Turner. This diary, found in a locked drawer in Marcus's apartment, contained personal entries that detailed his relationships, not just with Jennifer Hayes, but with other individuals connected to his past. As investigators sifted through the pages, they uncovered an astonishing revelation. Marcus had been involved with another parole officer, someone no one had suspected, someone who had been working alongside Jennifer. It was a shocking twist that none of the investigators had anticipated. This other parole officer, known only as Karen Rhodes, had been more than just a colleague to Marcus. She had been an active participant in his life, helping him cover up past crimes and possibly even playing a role in manipulating Jennifer. The diary entries revealed a deep, secret bond between Marcus and Karen, one that went far beyond professional boundaries. But what was even more disturbing was the level of involvement Karen seemed to have in Marcus's recent actions. There were hints in the diary suggesting that she had been aware of the affair between Jennifer and Marcus, and that she had been trying to control the situation from behind the scenes. Was Karen the mastermind who had orchestrated Jennifer's murder? Had she been jealous of Jennifer's relationship with Marcus? Or was she using Marcus as a pawn in her own twisted game, manipulating him into committing a crime that she could later exploit for her own gain? As investigators dug deeper into Karen Rhodes's background, they found a disturbing pattern. She had been quietly transferred to another parole office just weeks before Jennifer's murder. It seemed as though Karen had been carefully maneuvering to stay out of the spotlight, hiding her true intentions behind a professional facade. Her involvement in Marcus's life and her connections to other shady figures were beginning to paint a disturbing picture. Could it be that Karen, not Marcus, was the true orchestrator of the crime? But the twists didn't stop there. The more the police uncovered, the more complicated the case became. A shocking phone call was discovered on Marcus's phone, recorded just days before Jennifer's death. The call was from someone identified only as Gina, a name that had never appeared in any prior records. Gina's voice was trembling, filled with urgency. She spoke of an arrangement, something that needed to be kept quiet, and hinted that Jennifer had to be dealt with. This new lead opened an entirely new can of worms. Was Gina another accomplice? Someone with even deeper ties to the case? And if so, how did she fit into the larger picture of Marcus, Karen, and Jennifer's tragic fate? The deeper the investigation went, the more convoluted it became, and the more impossible it seemed to separate fact from manipulation. The emotional toll of the affair and the resulting crime was taking its toll on everyone involved. Marcus, once a cold and indifferent suspect, began to crack under pressure. His behavior grew more erratic, his statements more inconsistent. The guilt, or perhaps the realization of being part of something far more complicated than he had ever expected, began to consume him. Karen Rhodes, on the other hand, seemed unfazed, continuing her life as if nothing had happened. The investigators were left with more questions than answers. Who were the true perpetrators behind Jennifer's death? Was Marcus just a pawn in a game far beyond his understanding? Or was he the mastermind behind a much darker conspiracy? With the evidence mounting, it seemed like the case was about to explode in a way no one could have predicted. The question on everyone's mind remained, who was really behind the murder of Jennifer Hayes? Was Marcus just the first piece to fall, or had he been the final piece in a larger, more elaborate plan? The twists were piling up, each revelation opening the door to even more questions, and the truth seemed further out of reach than ever before. In the end, Marcus Turner was arrested for the brutal murder of Jennifer Hayes. His arrest came after a lengthy investigation and numerous twists, but the resolution felt far from satisfying. The evidence was overwhelming. Marcus's involvement in Jennifer's death was undeniable. The diary, the phone call, and his own contradictory statements painted a grim picture of a man whose life had spiraled out of control. He was charged with first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. But even as he stood trial, the question lingered. Was Marcus truly the one who orchestrated Jennifer's death, or had he been manipulated by others? Despite the arrest, the case left a trail of lingering uncertainties. Many believed that the true mastermind behind Jennifer's death had yet to be uncovered. Karen Rhodes, the parole officer who had been tied to Marcus, disappeared shortly after the investigation wrapped up. She was never formally charged, but her involvement remained a mystery that no one seemed eager to fully investigate. Was she just another player in Marcus's troubled life, or did she have a darker role to play in the deadly affair? Even more perplexing was the mysterious Gina. Who was she, and how did she fit into the web of deceit and betrayal? Some theorize that she was involved in a larger conspiracy, an underground network that used vulnerable parolees and law enforcement officers to their advantage. If this theory holds any truth, Marcus Turner may have been nothing more than a pawn in a much larger game, manipulated by forces far beyond his comprehension. Yet, the investigation into Gina and any potential accomplices seemed to stall, and the truth about her involvement was never fully revealed. Jennifer's death, a tragedy that started with an illicit affair, ultimately exposed a much darker world of manipulation and deceit. The emotional toll on everyone involved was profound. Marcus's life, which had already been marred by violence and crime, was now irrevocably ruined. His brief relationship with Jennifer led to a chain of events that would haunt him for the rest of his life. And for the loved ones of Jennifer Hayes, the loss was a wound that would never fully heal. In the aftermath, the case left more questions than answers. Were the forces behind Marcus's actions more dangerous than anyone could have imagined? Could justice ever truly be served when so many layers of deception remained hidden in the shadows? The story of Jennifer Hayes is one of tragedy, but it's also a story of the devastating consequences of a secret relationship gone horribly wrong. And as for the larger conspiracy many suspect was at play, only time will tell if the true architects of this crime will ever be exposed. Until then, the mystery remains, unsolved, haunting, and unfinished. This case serves as a chilling reminder of how secrets, once buried deep, can grow into something far more destructive. It's a story that speaks to the dangers of unchecked power and manipulation, and one that will continue to reverberate long after the final verdict. What do you think really happened to Jennifer Hayes? Was Marcus Turner the only one responsible, or is there a much deeper conspiracy at play here? We want to hear your theories. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a chilling true crime story. Like this video if you found the twists and turns as shocking as we did. And don't forget to share it with anyone who loves unraveling mysteries. Stay tuned for more gripping cases, and we'll see you in the next video.